How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. And what we're going to talk about is a 26-year-old dropout that started a particular firm in the private debt space and is getting a lot of attention because over the past 6 months, she's raised over around $400 million for this particular firm. Now, why do you think this is going to be interesting to you? One of the things we understand as people that are interested in the markets is that there's an insatiable appetite to get a return on capital, what we call a yield. And therefore, if you can create an organization that can feed that demand, it can feed that appetite to get that return on capital, a lot of capital, a lot of money will flow to your situation. And what we're going to try to do with breaking down this article is to give you some ideas about how to be innovative in the space, how to differentiate yourself in the space, but still be effective, still be able to be successful, and understanding that in the markets, as a result, that capital will flow to you. So let's go ahead and share this out fully, and let's get right into this article. 26-year-old dropout lapping the hedge fund field. Her name is Eva Shane. She raised $400 million in the past 6 months. Now she works in what we call the private debt space. She owns a company called Legalist Incorporated. And what makes this kind of different is the fact that the private debt space is a space primarily dominated by Anglo-Saxon men who came from a lot of the top investment banks and private equity firms. Now she runs this with a co-founder, and they started this company in 2016 when she was 20 years old. And it was very difficult to get backwards because one, working in private debt, especially with being that young and not coming from some of those top investment banks and private equity firms, it can be hard to get credibility in the market space. So Legalist's flagship strategy of litigation finance, right, where their fund managers back plaintiff lawsuits in exchange for a percentage of court awarded judgments, right, has a record gross annual returns around 25%. So 25% return on capital on an annual period. So insurance and endowments are buying into its funds, which manage around $655 million. And then now they're expanding into corporate bankruptcy loans and also leaning to government contractors. Now, she had no formal investment training before starting Legalist, and kind of what makes her different than people that come out of traditional finance. She doesn't wear the Brooks Brothers suits. She doesn't appear that way. She appears very, very informal. And she lives kind of like a very minimalist lifestyle. She's very much into volunteering. This is a picture of this particular founder. Now, if we go to their website called Legalist, they kind of promote themselves as a technology-powered investment fund. They specializing in alternative assets. If we look at their strategies, we have it as litigation finance, bankruptcy, and government receivables. And if you look at their about page, we have assets under management. We have their team. So that's Miss Shane, Christian Hay. These are the two founders. And we also have the chief operating officer, Brian Rice. You have the advisory board, and then they actually have underwriters. So one of the things that they do is they do utilize technology. They'll go find these opportunities, but they have a very rigorous manual underwriting process. They also probably do use algorithms, but there's actually human labor from the underwriting side to kind of do their risk assessment of whether or not these are going to be good opportunities for them to get that return. And this is pretty much the play with Legalists. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to observe this space. But the reason why I wanted to bring this particular article to you is because I want you to understand is that when you're trying to figure out how to be successful in the markets, one of the most important things is where can I get a return on capital that maybe other people are maybe doing it in a way that another person may not understand or maybe have not investigated. Because a lot of times in the capital markets, what we see is a lot of consolidation in one area and everybody trying to get capital out of the same area. And then it becomes almost like a purely competitive marketplace. And over time, it can get harder and harder to get a return on capital in those areas without government influence. And what do I mean by that is that people going to the government and they're seeking government advantages over the other competitors in their marketplace. What I like about this young woman and her founder is they try to figure out a new and different way, right, to be able to get return on capital that other people in the marketplace were not doing. And I think that may be what separates them from the pack and allows more capital to flow with them. And then we will continue to observe them because maybe eventually this turns into a larger play for them, or they just sell their book of business to maybe a larger investment bank and they just walk away billionaires. So these are the kind of things that I want you to really start thinking about in your day-to-day life and understanding how you can utilize the markets and make it more, I would say, person to person and not feel like everybody involved in the capital markets has to be the people in the Brooks Brothers suits, has to be the people with the investment bank backgrounds. They're people just like this young woman. So even though she did go to Harvard, the way in which she presents and the way in which she carries herself is not like a traditional person in the finance space. David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. I'll talk to you later.